Greetings, travelers, and good morning. My name is Pine, and welcome back to another New World video. Today, we'll be covering everything you need to know about the Great Axe. This will be the first installment in my brand new series covering each and every weapon in Aeternum. We'll go over the basics, each individual skill tree, each active ability, both ultimate abilities, the passives, and each ability's possible enhancements. First things first, the Great Axe is a two-handed weapon that scales primarily with the strength attribute. Like all other weapons, it has a mastery that ranges from level 1 to level 20. The Great Axe is broken up into two individual skill trees. On the left, we have Reaper, and on the right, we have Mauler. The active abilities are Reap, Charge, and Execute, followed by Maelstrom, Whirlwind, and Gravity Well. The ultimate abilities are Bloodlust and Mauler's Fury. There is no doubt in my mind that in the current state of New World, the Great Axe is one of the best weapons not only for PvE, but also for PvP content. It has a high damage output on its light and heavy attacks, a wide range of abilities that include crowd control, mobility, and an execute. Combine that with their power to deal effective AoE or area effect damage to multiple enemies, the Great Axe will be a powerful tool in your arsenal, no matter what you're doing in Aeternum. Now that we have a basic overview of the Great Axe, let's start breaking down each of the core abilities. First, we'll start with the Reaper skill tree. Your first active ability will be Reap. Extend your axe 5 meters, pulling foes to you and dealing 110% weapon damage. This ability is also taunt gem compatible, which means an active Carnelian gem can make this ability taunt enemy foes. After unlocking the core ability, you'll have 3 additional enhancements or bonuses to add on using skill points. The first one is the Collector, which increases the range of Reap from 5 meters to 8 meters. Next up is Hunger, which causes you to heal yourself for 30% of the damage done by Reap. And finally, we have Fatal Attraction. After your pull, perform a spinning attack for an additional 115% weapon damage. All 3 of these talents are amazing, and I strongly recommend picking up all 3 of them whether you're doing PvE or PvP style content. Making the Reap into a 2-part ability that also heals you, allows you to catch up to opponents, and deals a ton of damage, makes it useful in almost every single situation. The next active ability we have to look at is Charge. Charge 10 meters, dealing 120% weapon damage upon the end of travel or when pressing left mouse button. This move is also unstoppable, which means it cannot be interrupted in any fashion. The ability enhancements for Charge are the following. Frenzied Momentum. Increase the damage dealt from 120 to a possible 140% based on how far you travel with the charge. This means that performing a charge over longer distances will give you more damage. The other enhancement we have is Unpredictable Strike. Add an additional strike to your charge by pressing right mouse button and dealing between 140 and 165% weapon damage. I personally do not recommend either of these ability enhancements, as I find that they're pretty lackluster. The next active ability we have in the Reaper skill tree is Execute, a powerful attack that deals 200% weapon damage. This damage is increased to 300% on targets lower than 50% HP. The 2 ability enhancements we have are Unstoppable Force. Execute gains grit during the attack, which means it is no longer interruptible. Then we have Executioner, which is a guaranteed critical strike on targets below 30%. Combined with these 2 ability enhancements, Execute is a powerful tool for finishing off enemies, and can deal devastating damage not only on monsters, but also on players. Now we'll have to look at the passives of the Reaper skill tree. These passives will enhance your abilities or your character, providing them with attributes, buffs, or damage modifiers. Remember, all of the choices that we've looked at so far and that we are going to continue to look at will require a skill point. You get a skill point from leveling up your weapon mastery. With that being said, here are your options. Greed. Light attacks with your Great Axe give you a 5% damage increase for 5 seconds, stacking up to 3 times. Executioner Speed. Hitting 2 or more targets grants you 3 seconds of 20% increased movement speed. Death's Embrace. Against enemies below 50% health, will have 10% increased armor penetration. Critical Condition. When landing Great Axe attacks against foes below 30% health, they will now crit 15% more often. And on the counter side of that, we have Critical Gains. When you land a crit with the Great Axe, heal 10% of the damage dealt. The last 3 options we have are Frustration. After one of your attacks is blocked, gain 15% damage for 10 seconds. Keen Edge. Your chance to land a critical strike is increased by 10%. And the last passive we have is Feed. Great Axe attacks against foes below 30% heal you for 10% of the damage done. Some of the passives that I want to highlight that are exceptionally strong are the following: Greed, Critical Gains, Frustration, Keen Edge, and Death's Embrace. The ultimate ability for the Reaper skill tree is Bloodlust, where you move 30% faster and deal 15% damage while looking at a foe within 15 meters. This is an incredibly useful tool for mobility and keeping enemies within your attack range. On top of the damage modifier from Bloodlust and some of the passives, you'll be dealing a ton of damage in the Reaper skill tree. Now let's take a look at the Mauler tree. We'll start it off with each of the active abilities. The first active ability is Maelstrom, a fast spinning attack that pulls targets closer to you and deals 110% weapon damage. The ability enhancements for Maelstrom are the following: Storm's Reach, which extends the range of Maelstrom by 50%. Absorb, which consumes all projectiles while Maelstrom is active. And finally, No Reprieve, in which Maelstrom does an extra spin, pulling in more targets and dealing an additional 110% weapon damage. The next ability is Whirlwind, a spinning attack that deals 50% weapon damage to all nearby foes. If you hit a foe, you spin again, for a maximum of 4 spins. On top of that, you can move while spinning, and this attack cannot backstab. The ability enhancements for Whirlwind are the following: Gusting Winds. The maximum number of rotations is now increased to 7 spins. Unending Winds. Whirlwind's movement speed is now increased by 50%. And the last one is Surrounded. If you are surrounded by 3 or more enemies, Whirlwind deals 30% more damage. The last active ability we have in the Mauler skill tree is Gravity Well. Throw an axe to create a vortex that pulls foes closer to its center. It ends with a damaging burst dealing 125% weapon damage. It has a 10-meter range and a 30-second cooldown. The ability enhancements for Gravity Well are the following: Crowned Well. Increase the burst damage by 10% for each foe caught in the vortex. Additionally, you'll have Unyielding, in which allies gain 10% damage reduction while standing in your Gravity Well. The passives in the Mauler tree are the following: Mauler's Resolve. If you get hit while below 50% health while holding your Great Axe, you regenerate 40 stamina. Heavy Pull. Heavy attacks will now pull enemies closer to you, granting you an additional crowd control on some of your basic attacks. On top of that, there's Enduring Strike, which adds grit to the Great Axe heavy attacks and grants a 15% damage reduction while grit is active. With those two, our heavy attacks will now pull people and provide us with a damage reduction. To further buff that pull, we have Gravity. After you cause a pull, your foe is held still for 30% longer. This passive will affect abilities like Gravity Well, Maelstrom, Reap. The final 3 passives we need to look at are the following: Revenge. When you block an attack with your Great Axe, gain 5% damage for 5 seconds, maximum of 3 stacks. Then you have the Center of Attention. While holding a Great Axe, gain 10% damage when 3 or more foes are within 4 meters. And on that same note, we have Crowded Protection. While holding a Great Axe, add 10% damage absorption when 3 or more foes are within 4 meters. And of course, it wouldn't be a skill tree breakdown if we didn't look at the ultimate. The ultimate for this skill tree is Mauler's Fury. Your Great Axe attacks increase your damage by 3% for 3 seconds, but this stacks up for a maximum of 10 times, which means it can have a possible 30% damage increase up at all times. While the Mauler tree may be underwhelming at first, if you combine it with some of the passives from each tree to increase your damage as much as possible, you can really ramp up your AoE or area of effect damage on multiple enemies. I imagine that some players are going to experiment and find a build to take on multiple hordes of enemies at once. Let's start talking about some possible builds, my personal build, and some additional tips and tricks to help you while using the Great Axe in the open world or in any style of content. On screen, here is my personal build. I found this to be pretty useful with primarily a PvP focus, but I still did a ton of PvE content. I used the active abilities Reap, Charge, and Gravity Well, with a combination of passives from both sides and the ultimate ability being Bloodlust. During one of our recent live streams, we did some analyzing of some possible build ideas. Now, these were simply theory crafted, so take them with a grain of salt, but we were experimenting with the possibility of getting as many damage modifiers as possible in each of the tree. I did some breakdowns like Great Axe PvP, Great Axe Single Target, Great Axe AoE. I'll also put a link in the description down below. The website will have an order of skills in which you should level up your weapon mastery. Some additional tips for the Great Axe would be as follows. Don't waste your mobility unless you absolutely need to. You can use your charge ability to cross bodies of water, including rivers. Press shift to dodge and strafe before queuing up your auto attack. This will help extend the range of your light and heavy attacks. Don't use all your abilities at once. You'll want to spread them out and chain them to keep your opponent within your attack range. And as always, if you made it this far into the video, I can't thank you enough. We recently passed 3,000 subscribers and the game hasn't even launched yet. I was also pleasantly surprised to receive a care package from the development team of New World, which included a steel case copy of the game, an art book, a bag, a water bottle, some snacks, and more. Thank you so much for the development team for sending me this package, and of course, you guys for enjoying my content and taking the time out of your day to learn about New World. Launch is officially around the corner, and I know that I'm going to be preparing all day for a long grind of New World. If you guys are interested in supporting the content outside of YouTube, or you guys want to get to know me more as a broadcaster, I invite you to check out my live stream over on Twitch, and I'll put a link in the description below. It would mean the world to me if you could stop by and let me know if maybe you learned something new from my videos or enjoy my content. I'll be streaming New World every day during launch week and still trying to provide as much high quality YouTube content to you guys out here, especially if live streaming is not your thing. With all that being said, I hope this video taught you something new, and as always, safe travels through Aeternum.